Hello, I am Wanderer001 and this is my review of the Wyze Cam Pan. Undoubtedly, you probably have heard of the Wyze company and their Wyze Cam. Well, this is, think of it as the big brother to that camera. So, this is the big brother to that camera. Same company, same philosophy, great product. I'm just gonna start that off with saying, for the price point, this is an awesome camera. That moves. That's the whole idea behind this as opposed to the version 2 camera. This one rotates, but not only does it rotate left to right, it also has a camera motor here which will allow it to do even more granular movements. So let's take a look at the camera itself here. You are looking at a device that is 5 inches tall with a width of 2.36 and a depth of 2.36. That's because it is a perfect cube, so to speak. If you're looking to get an idea of this compared to the original camera, well, here you go. It's pretty much just shy, just a little more than 2 of their previous cameras stacked up on top of each other. Now, coming around, the device itself is very unobtrusive. We'll start on the back here just so you have your speaker, you have your USB for daisy chaining the product. This is not for powering it, or the Wyze Sense going in the future. Left and right, you saw that there was absolutely nothing. On the top, there's absolutely nothing. Here on the front, you have a microphone because this does support two-way audio. It also has a status light for setting it up and letting you know that the camera is on. Now, I do wish that they would change so that you could have this status light be off when nobody's actively viewing the camera and then turn back on when somebody is. Sadly, it's an on-off right now. Coming up to the camera itself, you have 6 IR lights on either side of this and a head that moves. Now, the lens has a field of view of 120 degrees, so that is a nice large field of view. Coming down here to the bottom, you will see, albeit a little dusty, this is your rotation pad. It is rubberized. You can also mount this to something akin to a tripod. That's what that's there for. You have your setup button right there, and you have a micro SD card slot. Now, a similar complaint that I had with the version 2 camera, the SD card slot is a little tricky to get to. Now, on the version 2, the lip around the side here was rather high and made this hard to get to. Well, sadly, this motorized area here makes it a little trickier to get to that. So I would suggest, just like I did in my other video, use a paper clip, poke, not the sharp end, folded paper clip, poke it, and it will spring right out for you. So one of the key factors with Wyze is the simplicity of use. So the question then becomes, how easy is it to set up the new, well, it's not new anymore. How easy is it to set up the Cam Pan here? Well, let's take a look at that in real time. All right, so this is setup of the Wyze Cam Pan. First thing you're gonna do is make sure that you go and install the Wyze app. If you don't, you kind of need it. So I already have it installed. So what we're going to do is we're going to select the 3 dots in the upper right hand corner here. And we're going to say add a product, which might be a little hard to see. So let's zoom in on that a little bit. Add a product. And right there to the right, you see the Cam Pan. And we're going to hit add product. You're going to select what you want. And here we go. We want the pan. Did you remove the film? Yes, there is a piece of film across the lens there. So you want to make sure you remove that. And in our case, we're gonna just tap that because we did. So next we need to connect your phone to a 2.4 gigahertz network and that you have the password ready. Connect camera to power and then you'll be prompted to push the button down there. Now currently I do not have my phone connected to 2.4 gig, so I'm gonna have to do that. All right, so I put it back on the 2.4 gig network that I use for my IoT devices. So we're gonna go ahead and plug this in with the provided cable. Just a little tricky to do around the camera, considering the base plate is where you're plugging it into, which makes sense because the top part is going to rotate. Now I did hear some clicking. The pan starts spinning, I'm assuming to indicate that it's ready, because there is no status light on this like there was on the Wyze Cam V1 or V2. We're going to click the setup button right down here as prompted there.
Ready to connect.
All right, and then we press the setup button, and when it says ready to connect, we hit next. So here is the 2.4 gig network. We're just going to hit
Ready to connect.
next. Which there is a QR code which you scan, with your camera. Let's see if I can do this around the actual camera.
Ready to connect. QR code scanned. Please wait.
So I'm tapping, I heard QR code scanned, and we're just going to put that back there. It's a little tricky to do.
Setup completed.
I felt like the setup on this one was much faster than it was for the version 2. They really streamlined this process compared to what it used to be like. Although connecting on the app is still, oh, there we go. So we're going to enter a device name and we're going to cheat living room, text to speech, and we're going to hit OK and finish setup. So it's successful. So if we come back to my main page, there we go. We've got the Cam Pan, and we'll just click on that to make sure that everything is connected. All right, so there are some firmware updates that need to be done, but hopefully, and we'll actually zoom in on that, you can kind of see my hand moving in the background there, so you know that it is connected. So that was the setup process for the Pan here, and I'm just gonna do the upgrade and everything will be fine. Nice and easy. So as you saw, not terrible at all to set up, and that I greatly appreciate. Now, what you get aside from the Cam Pan here, you also get a power brick and a 6-foot cable. Now, the power brick I appreciate because it is just a USB to micro, if we come all the way to the end of the 6-foot cable here, micro USB cable. So that means, should you need a longer length of this, you can just get a different cable and plug into it. That I really appreciate, especially with other products that use hard wires or proprietary cables. Now, let's talk a little bit about the camera up here. You are looking at a lens that has an f2.3 aperture with a 3.5 millimeter focal length and a image sensor that is a CMOS sensor. For me, I just have this in my living room, and that's partially why I got this instead of just using the version 2 that I have, which I have in my basement. I needed to be able to see around my living room and kitchen. The version 2, while I had it in my condo, sat on my mantle and covered everything, I needed the ability to move around. Now, a lot of the features of this camera, because the box that houses all this is very unassuming. So realistically, it's all in-app stuff. So why don't we take a look at the app and see what we can do there.
All right, so this is the Wyze app. Now, this is the main screen that you come to when you first log into it. Some of this stuff I did talk about in another video. Put a link over there. So I'm not going to talk about it in depth in this video because I'm trying to stick to the Pan itself. But I will gloss over some of these other features. So currently you are on home. Events will allow you to see events for a selected camera. So here you can see it's cycling between workshop, living room. So throwing everything here, it's showing you that these are the dates that it happened on. If I wanted to, I can select person, which will just cycle for person. I can also select device. So which one of these devices do I want to grab? Now, moving on, discover. Again, that's just, do you want to see other people's videos? Shop, early access to products that are coming up, but they also do sell products through here. And the last area at the bottom is account, which will show you information that's kind of all about your Wyze family of products. So we're going to come back to home. And again, here you've got notifications, you have your quick sets. Up here you can add a product, sort products, group products, edit, add edit rule, which are these up here, and cancel. So again, group products means you can watch all of the videos, all of your video cameras at once. But we're talking about our living room because our living room is the pan cam. Now, if you saw my review of the original version 2, you'll notice that there's a big difference here, and that's this toggle down here. Well, obviously that's how you're going to move stuff around. But we're going to start by coming up here. This is your HD, so tapping on that will allow you to select HD, standard def, or 360. So if you want to save a little space on the card that's inside your camera, you select SD. 360 I have had when my internet was really shoddy. It downgraded to that just so that it could actually send a signal. We're going to cancel. Here you've got auto, night vision on, night vision off, and then auto, it will toggle between the two based on the ambient light around it. Now I'm going to skip this one for now, only because there's extra things, or lots of things to dig into with this menu. So we're going to come down here. Sound, on or off? Well, right now it's muted, but I can turn that on, and then I would be able to actively hear what's happening on this end. Now, if I wanted to, I can talk to them using voice. Tapping on that and speaking, you might not have heard, hopefully, because I tried to turn it off before it actually started cycling. Recording, well, if you wanted to record what's happening on your screen right now, and this is live, albeit a little difficult to see because this is a slightly different setup than what I had in my condo. Recording will record this screen live, so I can do that, and it is recording exactly what's happening in real time. So this is different than the cloud storage that you have, or the event recording to your SD card, or the perma recording to your SD card. This is recording right now directly to my phone based on what I am seeing on this screen. And turning that off, it saves it. Now we talked about the voice. We can take a picture. There we go. Took a snapshot of what I see on my screen. Very useful if somebody's in your house that shouldn't be there. Over here, we have more. Now, more has more features than the version 2. Now, there is motion tagging turned on. Might be a little tricky to see because I'm kind of far away and not moving enough to cause motion tagging, but that would be a little green box that pops up around a target. I will link to a video or B-roll, some in here, of actual video from this device. Motion tracking, what this will do is if you turn it on, always closes that submenu, which kind of annoys me a little bit, but what this will do is as something moves through your frame, it will follow. The camera will rotate and follow. I've tested it with robot vacuum, cat, myself. Depending on how large the object is and how fast the object is how well this actually performs. Now, smaller things like a cat that moves rather quickly, it stuttered a lot and had trouble refocusing to move and follow it. Bigger objects such as myself, like a person, not as hard because you move slower, you're a larger target, it keeps you in frame much easier. I'm going to turn that off, and we're going to come to pan scan. Now, pan scan, when you turn it on, will automatically turn off your detection zone. So that's an option up here which we will talk about. So what pan scan will do is it will cycle through 4 predefined targets. So if I wanted a more expansive view of my living room / hallway here, pan scan is how we can do that. And I'm going to leave that on only because in the options, it's going to show us that more in depth. Album, selecting this will show you, hey, here's the video that I recorded while we were talking. This is a time lapse that I took. So if we download this, by actually clicking the download option there, you will sit here and wait. And this is 341 megs. So this is a rather large time lapse that I did. I will say, I did try and download this prior to doing this video. you have to be on the same Wi-Fi network as the camera in order to download. So while that's doing its thing, we're going to come over here to Photos. And there is the photo that I took earlier. Now you'll notice that the time-lapse is not there yet because it has to fully download. Now I'm going to pause, and through the magic of editing, this will be done when you come back. So time-lapse was rather long to download. I did a little segment about it and then didn't realize I had the mic turned off. So time-lapse, set it up, download it. There's an option for it. I'll show you later. Similarly to time-lapse, you have your video. You can watch it. Turning your cell phone on the side will make the image bigger. You can do this on the main screen as well. Time-lapse, you did not have the sound option, but you did have the share and delete. Sound, because this is an audio recording and not a time-lapse video, you can toggle sound on and off. You also have the expander over there in the corner, or the arrow to go back to this view. Don't be like me. Check your microphone. Make sure you actually have it turned on. So for this, we're actually going to delete it because I don't want it on my phone. Photo album, still there. We can select edit up in the corner, which will allow us to select, share, or delete a photo. We're going to delete, and now it's off. Coming back, we were in album, time-lapse, which is how I set up that video that I deleted. You can set a start date and time. You set an end date, start date, or end date and time. And then you set your interval, minutes, seconds, and there you go. Once you're done, you hit set. I won't be doing that. Again, back to more. Talked about time-lapse. This is turn off. This will turn off your camera with a quick toggle if you so chose. So those are our options there. Now you notice the thing I talked about before. This allows you to move the camera, and this is why you're thinking about getting the pan. You can also drag it using your finger, which is kind of cool. Now, what will happen after 15 seconds of no more moving, the camera itself will turn itself to its start position. Now, the start position is very important because you have to angle the body of the camera where you actually want it to start. So similar to the version 2 camera, you put that where you want it to be because that's the view that you're going to see. With this one, you have to make sure that the camera is facing the way that you want to see 99.999% of the time, because once it's done here, it will toggle itself back there. But we're not going to wait around for that to happen. Down here at the bottom, we can select View Playback. Now, playback will only work if you have an SD card in the camera. So you can see this camera does not stay on all the time. So this green marker is actually what you can scrub back through. You can turn on and off the sound. You can record directly from your playback. You can pause your playback. You can take a photo from your playback, and then you can view the album of recordings and so forth. Coming back to live stream, we're going to come up here to settings, because this, where a lot of the extra options are. You can change the name by selecting that. Event recording. You can schedule either all day, which I generally leave on, or a start date and time as to when events will be recorded, meaning push notifications or recording to your SD card if you so chose. Detect motion, obviously I want that. Detect sound, yeah, why not? We'll turn that on too for the purposes of this demonstration. And you can see it's sitting there doing its thinking. And my network timed out. Oh, is my network giving me issues? Nope, there we go. Notifications. Send notification on or off. Person detection on or off. So that's that AI. You will need, well, the pan camera does do that. All motion, I have toggled off because I only want to know if it's a person. And sound, we have toggled on. So now that will push notifications if it hears a sound. Detection settings. You can detect, high or low sensitivity. I generally keep that on high. Detection zone got turned off when I turned on the pan selection, but turning that on, you have an option, and there you go. So you saw it right itself. So we can move this selection box, we can change the size of it, and that will tell us this is our detection zone. And down there at the bottom might be hard to see. after 15 seconds, it will return to its position. Turning that off and moving on. Sound sensitivity, I have it right now on medium. Alarm settings. So smoke and CO2, it cannot detect smoke or carbon monoxide, but the camera will listen, and if it hears a sound that sounds like a fire alarm going off, or it sounds like a smoke detector going off, it will send you a push notification. Advanced settings. Local storage. So local storage to the SD card, continuous recording or event recording. I have continuous. This shows you the size and how much is left, and you can format it when you put your SD card right in there. Motor control. So coming up here, this is how quickly it will rotate. By default, it's left at 5. You can move it faster or slower depending on your needs. Pan settings. Well, this is by default, it selects 1, 2, 3, 4, or you can set your own. So right now, what I'm going to do is we're going to move this, and you can see the image change to my hallway there, and then tap set, and it will add an image there. We go next. I want this to be the next point. I hit set. I move on. I hit set, and I move on. And we'll get a picture of a bowl. Set. Now you can preview your selection. And here you go. Camera's rotating. Position 1. And then after 10 seconds, it will rotate. Position 2. And after 10 seconds, position 3. Now I'm not going to make you sit through that, but you can set your own positions. Now, reset position, what this will do is clicking this will have the camera rotate and reset its position. Now, this is why I said knowing where the start position is very important, and making sure that that's your 99.99% view. Night vision, you can toggle on, off, and auto from here. Pan, you can turn on and off the IR light, which is awesome. Camera status light, so that is the light on the front of the camera. So you can turn that on. If you turn it on, there'll be that little blue indicator light. I do wish that they had an active viewing light somewhere on the camera, but beggars can't be choosers. Rotate 180 degrees. What that will do is, if we come back to our video, it will turn the video completely upside down. Now, my one thing with the rotate 180 degrees was I thought that the pan camera was not supposed to be put in a vertical position. But the option's there. You do it at your own risk. Time and watermark, obviously they speak for themselves. That's that little logo in the bottom corner of your screen. Show Wyze logo, same thing. Record sound, yes, and time sync, well, that kind of speaks for itself. It's a time sync. Scrolling down. Schedule automations. Well, right now, I have a few rules set up for this camera, which are start at this time, end at this time, and then based on a couple days. So if I wanted to, you can see it starts at 6:45 a.m. Sorry, ends at 6:45 a.m. every day, and then starts at 6:45. So hypothetically, if we came up here and pressed the plus sign, you can create a shortcut, create a schedule, or device trigger. I don't have enough Wyze products just yet to do that device trigger. So we're going to say schedule. And we're going to say living room. And we will say turn on camera. Next. And then you would set a date and say done. Now again, I cover this in the other video that I've done of this, which is why I'm kind of glossing over it. Sharing will allow you to share clips in that Discover tab that you saw when we first started. Device info is just that. It is the device's information. And extended devices. You can see right there, Wyze Sense Bridge. This one does not have one on it yet, but it will in the future. And then you can restart your device and then delete this device. Would not recommend. And there we go. We're toggled back. Now what we're going to do is we're going to come back into advanced settings, and then we're going to select detection zone on, which will force it back to center. So if you're panning, you will not have that option. It will not return to center. So that has been a longer look at the app for the pan cam hopefully you found that useful. And for some of those other options that I glossed over, I'd recommend checking out my other video that I did of this, just to not have to be redundant.
So now that we've talked about the app and you got to see what this can do, let's talk about some of the specifics of the Cam Pan here. You are looking at a device that operates only on 2.4 gigahertz, not 5 gigahertz, partially because, well, you don't need fast speeds with this, but you do need it to be able to go far distances. The SD card here underneath can be either 8, 16, or 32 being the max. Now, depending on if you have high def or standard def is how much time you can record directly to the SD card. If you have a lot of motion, that again eats into the time. I will say, just like in the original version 2 criticism that I had, the file structure on the SD card for Wyze could use some improvement. I wish they would, but again, it's not terrible, especially for the price of the camera. Keep in mind that you are going to be doing everything through the app. There is no on-browser support for this. They do offer RTS, however, if you use that firmware, you will not get firmware updates. And what I mean by that is Wyze pushed out an update to the version 2 and the Cam Pan here, which allow it to do person detection. If you would have done the RTS, you would not be able to get those features. And again, over there in the corner, I did a little look at the person detection for the camera. So if this is your first Wyze product that you're looking at, you may wonder, well, I have an SD card in it, which is good. You can set up to continuously record. You can set it up for motion detection. You can set it up to detect and then record. But if you don't have an SD card, where does it go? How do I view things? Well, if you set up detection settings, either sound or motion, it will send a short clip to the cloud, which is a AWS server, which has end-to-end encryption and saves your 12 to 13 second clips there. Now, in the future, there may be a product that offers continuous recording, but part of the reason I was looking at the Wyze family of products is I did not want to have to pay for cloud storage. With these, you don't. You have local storage, which was important to me, and clips that are saved for free. So for me, that's awesome. Now those clips will only be saved for 14 days. So you will have to download them to your device. Again, using the app to go in and download those. I really do wish that they offered an easier way to do that, because if I want to record a 2-hour clip, because, well, I want to do from A to B, not just little clips, you would have to open your app, press record, and then let it play for 2 hours to record it. I really wish they would work on that. Maybe make it so that you can access the file structure on the SD card from the app itself, instead of having to pull the SD card and then stitch together the clips. Now, the sound on the back here, while acceptable, is not changeable. So the level of volume that it's at is just the level of volume that it's at. You cannot adjust that. It's enough to be heard. My cats do not like it, but they didn't like it on the version 2 either. Now, because this moves and has a motor, I'm gonna be honest, you're not gonna be spying on people with this. When it turns, you do hear it. If there's other noise in the room, you may be able to rotate this and have it not be heard, but keep in mind, that's got a motor and that's got a motor, and they're gonna make noise and people will hear them. But it's kind of interesting when you use motion tracking with this, because, well, I have found for small things like my robot vacuum and my cats, it's a little jerky and adjusts a lot. If it's tracking a person, one, it tends to pan upwards towards the face, and two, does a little better job because they're a larger box. I have found, however, that if you have motion tracking turned on and there's a quick light change and the motion tracking box pops up, well, then the camera starts going, trying to figure out what's going on. So one of the last areas of consideration for me now, as opposed to one of the first areas of consideration for me when I lived in my condo where everything ran on electricity, is how much power does this use? Well, when recording, and that's to the SD card or not to the SD card, it uses 1.9 watts of power compared to 2.1 that the version 2 used. When the IR lights are on, it uses 2.9 watts, and again, as opposed to the 3 watts that the version 2 used. So it did get a little bit better in power consumption, even with the motor here. But if you are rotating the motor, it peaks out at using 4.1. So if you do have this tracking motion, you're going to be using a little more power. So I've talked about a lot of features that this can do. The question is, when I say it's affordable and cheap, how cheap is it? Well, depending on where you get it, you can get it between $33 and $37. If you get it from the Wyze site itself, they do charge you for shipping. Amazon does not. And again, this is a very versatile little camera for the price. If you're looking for a cheap baby monitor, look no further. I mean, there's no reason to go out and buy a specific baby monitor when you can use this as a baby monitor, and then when you no longer need it as a baby monitor, move it so that you can keep track of Junior as he's other places in the house. It also has that built-in CO2 and fire detection, as you saw me talk about in the app. So again, Wyze is making a large play at building out an infrastructure. They've got their 2 cameras. I'll be testing out the smart plug very shortly and their Sense and bulbs. So all of them are interoperable with each other. Thankfully, right now, they do talk to Amazon, Google, and IFTTT. So really, for the price and all that you're getting in this package, there's really no reason not to give a Wyze product a try, or in this case, the Wyze Cam Pan. So if you didn't get the message, highly recommend. I have been Wanderer001. If you have any questions or comments, please leave them in the area below. And as always, thanks for watching.